I want to talk to you about smart contracts. And in today's conversation, I will be talking about the types, the benefits, the tools that you need to actually be aware of when actually navigating the world of smart contracts. I mean, with the advent of AI, with the advent of automation or technology, all that kind of stuff, you do have a huge opportunity, huge potential this year, okay? Let me first define what a smart contract is. So, a smart contract is actually defined as a digital agreement is actually assigned and stored on a blockchain network, which really executes automatically when the contract's terms and conditions are met. So that's really the let's say the straightforward definition. So the terms and conditions are written in blockchain specific programming languages such as Solidity, for instance. And so smart contracts form the foundation of most blockchain use cases from NFTs, so non fungible tokens, to decentralized apps and also the metaverse. Okay. So, in today's conversation, I really want to go into the details and explain to you what you need to be aware of if you navigate the world of smart contracts. So, I've already explained to you that smart contract is a digital agreement. Okay. So one can also look at smart contracts as blockchain applications that enable all parties to carry out their part of the transaction. Now, apps powered by smart contracts are frequently referred to as decentralized applications or DApps. So you probably heard this before, DApps. That those are how this is how those apps are referred to in the smart contract world. So while the idea of blockchain is largely perceived as Bitcoin's underlying tech driver, it has since then grown into a force to reckon with, especially during after COVID. Okay, so using smart contracts, a manufacturer, for instance, requiring raw materials can establish payments, and the supplier can schedule shipments. Then, based on the contract between the two organizations, payments can be automatically transferred to the seller upon dispatch or delivery. So that's really cool. Okay. So if you think about smart contracts, everything started about 20 years ago, 20 to 30 years ago. Okay, and so smart contracts are really sort of a link to blockchain technology, if you will. But the thing is, nowadays, it really those contracts really go beyond the blockchain world, if you will. Let me go a little more granular here. How do smart contracts work? So, like any other contracts, a smart contract is a binding contract between two parties, right? Two parties, three parties, four parties, whatever. So, a smart contract uses code to take advantage of the advantages of blockchain technology, thereby unlocking greater efficacy. That's kind of cool. You have greater openness, and you also have confidentiality. I mean, if you are working on a deal and you don't want people to really know about your business, having a smart contract is really cool here. Now, the execution of smart contracts is actually controlled by relatively easy if, when, then statements written in code on the blockchain. Everything happens on the blockchain. So the blockchain is foundational if you start thinking about smart contracts. Now, there are actually steps needed for the functioning of smart contracts. So you have about six steps. You have agreement, contract creation, deployment, monitoring conditions, the execution, and finally the recording. Let me break it down for you. So when I speak about agreement, the parties wanting to conduct business or exchange products or services must concur on the arrangement's terms and conditions. Furthermore, they must determine how a smart contract will operate, including the criteria that must be fulfilled for the agreement to be fulfilled. In terms of contract creation, participants in a transaction may create a smart contract in many ways, including building it themselves or collaborating with a smart contract provider. And the provisions of the contract are coded in a programming language. So during this stage, verifying the contract security thoroughly is actually critical because you do not want to really engage into something you do not understand. So you also have the deployment. So when the contract has been finalized, it must be published on the blockchain. So the smart contract is uploaded to the blockchain in the same way as regular crypto transactions with the code inserted into the data field of the exchange. So once the transaction has been verified, it's actually deemed active on the blockchain and cannot be reversed or amended. You also have monitoring conditions. So a smart contract runs by tracking the blockchain of a different reliable source for predetermined conditions or prompts. So that's pretty good. And this triggers can just be about anything that can be digitally verified, like a date attained, a payment made, etc. Okay. And you also have the execution. So when the trigger parameters are met, the smart contract is activated as per the if when then statement. This may implement only one or multiple actions, like passing funds to a vendor or registering the buyer's possession of an asset. And finally, you have a recording. So contract execution results are promptly published on the blockchain. So the blockchain system verifies the action taken, logs their completion as an exchange, and stores the concluded agreement on the blockchain. So this document is available at all times. So that's really good. So let me talk to you about the types of smart contracts here. So when it comes to the type of smart contract, the cool thing is that you have a variety of contracts, but they can really be lumped into three categories. And I want you to really pay attention to this trifecta, okay? So you have three categories: legal contracts, decentralized autonomous organizations or DAOs, and logic contracts. So in today's conversation, I want to just discuss all those three into more details. Let me first start with smart legal contracts. So smart contracts are guaranteed by a law. They adhere to the structure of legal contracts. If this happens, and then this will happen, right? A smart contract resides on a blockchain and are actually, as smart contracts are reside on blockchain and are also unchangeable. Judicial or legal smart contracts offer greater transparency than traditional documents among contracting parties. Okay, so the parties involved execute contracts with digital signatures. That's pretty good. So you have more flexibility on that front. And smart legal contracts may actually be executed autonomously if certain prerequisites are fulfilled. For example, making a payment when a specific deadline is reached. So, in the event of a failure to comply, stakeholders could actually face severe legal repercussions. So that's kind of cool. You still have the same force of law if something is not really complied with. So what about the DAOs? The decentralized autonomous organizations. So DAOs are democratic groups governed by a smart contract that confers them with voting rights. So a DAO serves as a blockchain governed organization with a shared objective that's actually collectively controlled. And the cool thing is that no executive or president exists really. Instead, blockchain-based tenets embedded within the contract code regulate how the organization functions and funds are allocated. So that's really important. And then you have the application logic contract. So ALCs or application logic contracts consist of application-based code that typically remain synced with various other blockchain contracts. And the cool thing is that an ALC enables interactions between various devices like the Internet of Things (IoT) or blockchain integration. So that's really good when it comes to flexibility. Unlike the other types of smart contracts, these are not signed between humans or organizations, but between machines and other contracts. Let me talk to you about the top 10 uses of smart contracts this year. Now, the uses of smart contracts are wide and varied, okay, spread across industries, several industries. First, you have, I'm showing you on the screen here. Here is, as of the date of this show, the type of smart contract uses you have. So, for instance, you have royalty, you have royalty payments in media and entertainment. So, as they enter the industry, new artists rely on revenues from streaming services, and smart contract apps can facilitate easier royalty payments. And these contracts can outline, for instance, the share of royalties payable to the record company and the artist. And instantaneous handling of these payments is also an enormous advantage for everyone involved. That's kind of cool. So, smart contracts could also potentially solve the challenge of royalty distribution in an over the top content world where traditional network agreements do not apply, right? So this technology allows emerging artists and lesser known actors to get small but regular payments. So that's kind of cool. So you also have decentralized finance, so DeFi applications. So using cryptocurrencies and smart contracts, DeFi apps can offer financial services without an intermediary. So DeFi is no longer limited to peer-to-peer transactions. So on DeFi platforms, smart contracts facilitate complex processes like borrowing, lending, or derivative transactions. You also have conversion of assets into NFTs. So by assigning ownership and administering the movable nature of digital assets, smart contracts have made it possible to create non-fungible tokens. So contracts like this can also be altered to include added stipulations like royalties along with access rights to platforms or software. You have a B2B data marketplaces. That's really cool, especially if you are talking about a very competitive field. And you also have supply chain management. So smart contracts may also work autonomously without mediators or third parties because they are self-executed. So an organization can create smart contracts for an entire supply chain, and this will not require management like regular management or auditing. Any shipments received beyond the schedule might trigger stipulated escalation measures to guarantee seamless execution. So that's really important. You also have this is a good one. You will love it. You also have digital identity cards, so users can store reputational data and digital assets on smart contracts to actually generate a digital identification card. So when smart contracts are linked to multiple online services, other external stakeholders can learn about individuals without divulging their true identities. So that's kind of cool. Let me give you an example. These contracts may include credit scores lenders can use to verify loan applicants without the risk of demographic profiling or discrimination. Similarly, candidates can share resumes without the risk of gender bias in hiring. You have electoral polls, so voting could occur within a secure environment created by smart contracts, minimizing the likelihood of voter manipulation. So due to the encryption, every vote is ledger protected and extremely difficult to decode. So that's kind of cool. Additionally, smart contracts might boost voter turnout. So with an online voting system driven by smart contracts, one can avoid actually making trips to a polling station. That's kind of cool because then you can just be home and just do your thing there. You also have a real estate. So I think I've said this before, but smart contracts can accelerate the handover of property ownership. Contracts can be autonomously created and executed. So after the buyer's payment to the vendor, for instance, the smart contract may immediately assign control over the asset dependent on the blockchain's payment record. You also have healthcare data management. So smart contracts can revolutionize healthcare by making data more open and efficient. For instance, they might encourage clinical trials by guaranteeing data integrity. Hospitals can maintain accurate patient data records and effectively manage appointments. So that's kind of cool from a flexibility point of view. And finally, you have another important area here. You have civil law. So smart contracts can also flourish in the legal industry. They can be used to create legally binding business and social contracts. And so in certain regions in North America, governments have authorized smart contracts for digitized agreements. So for example, California can actually issue marital and birth certificates as smart contracts. So let me talk to you about the benefits and challenges of smart contracts this year. I mean, how can you really benefit from the whole thing? I want to first talk about the benefits. I mean, this is important to really understand in terms of benefits. So you have a single source of truth, right? You have reduction in human efforts. You have prevention of errors. I mean, errors. If you are working in a field work, contracts are actually replete with errors. You do not want to have that, okay? So smart contract can really help you big time here. You have zero trust by default, and you also have built-in backup. So if you think about single source of truth, you have individuals have the same data at all times, which really reduces the likelihood of contract clause exploitation. This enhances trust and safety because contract related information is actually accessible throughout the duration of the contract. Additionally, transactions are replicated so that all involved parties have a copy, right? You have reduction in human effort, so smart contracts don't need third party verification or human oversight. This actually provides participants autonomy and independence, particularly in the case of DAO. So, this intrinsic characteristic of smart contracts offers additional benefits, including cost savings and faster processes. You have a prevention of errors. So, a fundamental prerequisite for any contract is that every term and condition is recorded in explicit detail. So, an omission may result in serious issues in the future, including disproportionate penalties and legal complexities. So, automated smart contracts actually avoid form filling errors. And this is one of the greatest advantages you have. And you also have the zero trust by default. That's kind of cool. And the built in backup is just fantastic. So, in terms of challenges of smart contracts, you have rigidity in and inconsistent support, difficulty in capturing unquantifiable data. That's an important element. Conflict with the GDPR. So if you want to do things in Europe, for instance, this could be a problem. You have skills shortage, and you also have scalability issues. Let me talk to you about the top smart contract tools that you have this year. Well, you do have the first one. You have Borrowing Solidity. So you can see on the screen, this is a platform that does a lot of things, and it's part of the Alchemy universe. So, Borrowing Solidity is a collection of libraries for developing Solidity smart contracts that aim to streamline and standardize routine tasks, minimize weaknesses, and enhance overall code quality. Okay, so that's kind of important. You also have a Chainlink. That's the second one. Chainlink on the screen here. So, oracles on the blockchain aggregate real world data from various sources and transfer it to smart contracts using the blockchain. So Chainlink is among the leading Oracle solutions accessible today. And Chainlink provides reliable and tamper-resistant data to support smart contracts through multiple blockchains. Next, you have Eth-Code. So Eth-Code acts as a Visual Studio Code extension for developing Ethereum smart contracts. It provides a beginner-friendly development environment for text, troubleshooting, or unit testing contractual code. So the code is being used. The code is being used as an open source and also simple for Microsoft users to use. You have Octopus. So Octopus is another player. It's a tool to perform an in-depth evaluation of smart contracts source code. Okay, it offers features for evaluating code like symbolic execution, call flow and analysis, or content flow analysis. So this is really good. You also have Open Zeppelin. Open Zeppelin. This has become one of the most prominent no-code tools employed in smart contracts. You have Solidity. Solidity actually is the primary language used to create smart contracts in the Ethereum blockchain. So when it comes to the user interface, it mirrors Python, C++, and JavaScript. So this is something that that's good to know. So what are the best practices here when it comes to using smart contracts? Well, you want to prioritize simplicity, right? Simplicity is going to take you really far. So incorporating a smart contract into an agreement adds value and unleashes blockchain's many advantages. So complex contract logic, on the other hand, can lead to errors or wasted time. So you want to really develop simple contract logic to implement optimal digital processes. You want to update contracts regularly. That's going to help you big time. You want to lock compiler versions for smart contract code. That's going to help you later on if you have to change something. You want to conduct rigorous testing, right? And finally, you want to work with experts on independent audits. This is going to help you big time. So the takeaway here, when you think about smart contracts, in today's conversation, I define what smart contracts are. I spoke about the types of smart contracts, how they work, the top 10 uses of smart contracts, the benefits and challenges, and finally, the top smart contract tools. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.